Firstpost reports from the world's second largest continent. Hello, I'm Alyson Grange. A very warm welcome from Durban, South Africa. We get you the news and the newsmakers from Africa. From elections to climate change to innovations and opportunities. As the world's attention shifts, we report from Africa, the heart of the global south. Join me every weekday live on Firstpost. Hello and welcome to Firstpost Africa, where we get you the top stories from the continent and from across the world. I'm Alyson Grange, coming to you live from Durban, South Africa. First, let's take a look at the headlines. Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei warns of forceful retaliation if the United States attacks the Islamic Republic. This follows President Donald Trump's bombing threat if Tehran rejects a new nuclear deal. Russia attacks the city of Kharkiv in northeastern Ukraine for the second consecutive day, injuring 3 people, sparking fires at industrial buildings and damaging 2 schools. China says it has discovered a major oil field in the eastern South China Sea, with proven reserves exceeding 100 million tons. The discovered oil field is around 170 kilometers from Shenzhen City in China's Guangdong province. Junta state Niger withdraws from West Africa's Lake Chad military coalition, which includes Benin, Cameroon, Chad and Nigeria, amid disputes with the member nations. The country says it will now focus on protecting its oil operations from terrorist attacks. And French antitrust authorities hand tech giant Apple a $162 million fine over its app tracking privacy feature, which is also under scrutiny in several other European countries. Hello and welcome. We begin with the latest from the Horn of Africa, a region emerging as a hotspot for geopolitical tensions. In a dramatic development, Somalia has offered the US exclusive operational control over its strategic ports on the Gulf of Aden. This is according to a leaked letter from Somali President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud to his US counterpart Donald Trump. Now, Somalia's offer includes ports and military bases to bolster American engagement in the region, ensuring uninterrupted military and logistical access, while preventing external competitors from establishing a presence in the corridor. This comes as the US increases its military deployment in the Red Sea to counter Iran-backed Houthi rebels. But the assets Somalia is offering to the US are not without controversy. Now, Somalia is offering the US ports and bases in Berbera and Bosaso. Now, it is also offering the Baladogle Air Base, where US troops are already stationed to fight Al-Shabaab and ISIS in Somalia. But the assets in Berbera are located in Somalia's breakaway region of Somaliland, while the Bosaso is in the semi-autonomous region of Puntland. But Berbera Port, considered one of the most crucial Red Sea bases, has become the center of a major controversy. Now, Berbera Port is seen as a hope of independence for Somaliland, a region that does not consider itself a part of Somalia. Somaliland has been seeking international recognition, but no country has officially recognized its claim. Somaliland has been eyeing a separate deal with the US, a deal that would grant port access in exchange for recognition. Now, reports indicate that these talks had gained traction in Washington, but Somalia's new proposal could be a strategic move to block these efforts. Somaliland has responded to the plan. It has strongly rejected the idea of giving the US access to Berbera Port under the Somalia deal. Somaliland's Foreign Affairs Minister dismissed the move as desperate and that nothing can stop Somaliland from receiving recognition. He said that he believes the US isn't foolish and that they know exactly who they want to deal with. Somaliland recently expanded port in Berbera. It's run by a company from the United Arab Emirates, a key US ally in the region. The UAE has reportedly shown strong support for Somaliland's quest for international recognition. Now, Somalia, on the other hand, has not been in Trump's good books. The US has long played a pivotal role in helping Somalia to fight Islamist militants linked to Al-Qaeda and ISIS. However, observers say that Mogadishu fears that President Trump may reduce US support as he did during his first term. The country is also reportedly on a proposed red list or under a complete travel ban under Trump's administration. Meanwhile, Somaliland has gained attention for the relative stability and political environment that it has maintained. So, whose offer of port access will President Trump choose? And what will be the security implications for the Horn of Africa? Now, for more on this, we have with us Yusuf Belal, a Horn of Africa expert who is joining us from Meknes in Morocco. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Now, what strategic advantage would the United States gain by securing control over Somalia's air bases and ports, particularly in the context of countering the Islamist militant threats in the Horn of Africa region?
Well, there are three main advantages. The first one is certainly in the context of the war, the Israeli war on Gaza, and given that the Houthis in Yemen have been active in threatening part of Israel's security. So it is very much related to having an outpost and a naval, additional naval base that would help the U.S. Face the Houthi attacks, mostly that are against Israel, but also the maritime trade. The second advantage for the U.S. would be to have to be able precisely to secure the fluid trade in the Red Sea and through the Suez Canal. And the third one is within this competition between the US and China and Russia, and given that Russia will have most likely in the next few months a naval base in Sudan, in Port Sudan on the Red Sea. So having an additional presence is also part of this competition with Russia and China regarding the Belt and Road Initiative.
Right. And Yusuf, how does the inclusion of Berbera, which is a location that is also claimed by Somaliland, complicate Somalia's offer? And what are the potential geopolitical and legal implications of Somaliland rejecting this move?
Well, you know, we're in a situation that is very similar to what happened 1 year ago when the crisis between Ethiopia and Somalia started over the issue, a very similar issue, and the Berbera Port. So legally, Somalia is the only legal authority to be able to have this kind of agreement with the U.S. because it's the only government, the federal government of Somalia, that is internationally recognized. Right. Somaliland is recognized by no other country in the world. So legally, it would be then the federal government of Somalia that would be able and entitled to have this kind of agreement. But practically and politically, if the federal Somali government has the legal authority to do it, it doesn't have the political means to do it because practically Somaliland is a de facto state. It doesn't have a legal status. So that move would require, if on the Somali perspective it needed to work, it requires very intense negotiations with Somaliland to accept that kind of deal. So it's a kind of triangular relationship, and it would require, and obviously for the Somali government, it's a way to contain any possible recognition of Somaliland.
Right. And could this offer to the US risk escalating the regional tensions or invite pushback from other powers with interests in the Horn of Africa, such as China, Turkey, or the UAE?
Look, at this stage, we're in a situation with much less tension than what we had 1 year ago, when the crisis started between Ethiopia and Somalia over the issue of the Berbera Port and the possible recognition of Somaliland. Yeah. So now we have to keep in mind that the UAE has been pushing very much the US for this kind of policy, and the UAE is one of the key allies of the US in the region, and given that the UAE has been pushing also for a deal with Somaliland and Ethiopia, then the question would be, what would be then the kind of understanding that the UAE would have with the US regarding this kind of policy, because then it would have implications in the way that Somaliland acts as an independent or autonomous actor or not, and how all this will have implications in the fight against Al-Shabaab in Somalia.
Yusuf, thank you. It's always great to have you on the show.
Thank you, Alyson.
And from Somalia, we move to the conflict between the DRC and Rwanda. Qatar has reportedly hosted another round of talks between the neighbours, Rwanda and the DRC. And this time, Rwanda-backed M23 rebels have also joined the discussions in Doha. Now, the second round of DRC-Rwanda talks was reportedly held in Doha on Friday, but the details are not out yet. The reports also say that the M23 representatives they attended separate talks with Qatari officials, which did not include the DRC and Rwanda representatives. Now, these talks come after the first round of the surprise talks held between the DRC President Felix Tshisekedi and his Rwandan counterpart, Paul Kagame, this month. Now, this was the first time that the two leaders met since the M23 rebels stepped up an offensive in the eastern DRC in January. The two leaders called for an immediate and unconditional ceasefire. However, the M23 distanced itself from these talks. It continued its offensive with the capture of another strategic town in eastern DRC. Now, apart from reports of them joining the Qatar talks, the M23 last week also agreed to a deal with the Southern African Development Community on the evacuation of its peacekeeping forces from the DRC. Now, SADC forces have suffered heavy losses in the latest fighting, with the most casualties in South Africa, including at least 16 soldiers killed. The DRC accuses Rwanda of supporting the M23 rebels and using them to loot the DRC's precious minerals in the east. The UN says up to 4,000 Rwandan troops are present in DRC. However, Kigali calls it a defensive measure to protect itself from anti-Rwanda militias operating in the DRC. In the lightning offensive since January, the M23 has seized key mineral-rich cities in eastern DRC, including provincial capitals of Goma and Bukavu. At least 7,000 deaths have been reported in the clashes. Multiple efforts to broker peace in this years-long conflict have failed, with mediator Angola stepping back recently, citing frustration over both sides' reluctance to participate in direct talks. Will Qatar, which has been a mediator in multiple global conflicts, including the ongoing Israel-Hamas war, will they be able to broker peace in the DRC and end its decades-long conflict with the Rwanda and M23 rebels? We will keep you posted. And from Qatar's mediation in the crisis in eastern DR Congo, we now turn to another conflict unfolding in Africa, the war in Sudan, which has taken a dramatic turn in recent days. Now, Sudan's army chief, Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, visited Saudi Arabia on Friday, following his forces' decisive victory over the rival paramilitary Rapid Support Forces in Khartoum last week. During his visit, Burhan discussed the situation in Sudan with Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, and the two leaders agreed to establish a coordination council, this to strengthen bilateral relations between the two countries. Now, Saudi Arabia has previously attempted to mediate peace talks between the rival factions in Sudan, but without success. Despite this, it has expressed interest in supporting reconstruction projects in Sudan. At the same time, Riyadh has backed the Sudanese army, led by Burhan, with reports pointing to both military and financial support. Moreover, Saudi Arabia has also rejected the formation of a parallel government by the RSF, the paramilitary force which is allegedly supported by the UAE, one of Saudi's main competitors in the region. Now, Burhan's visit to Saudi Arabia, followed by the army's recent military gains after driving the RSF from most of Khartoum earlier this month, as a part of the two-year battle for control of the capital. The military has since reclaimed key locations, including the presidential palace, the airport, markets, and other strategic sites. Over the weekend, the RSF leader, Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, acknowledged in a speech that his forces had withdrawn from Khartoum. However, he vowed to return to the capital with greater force and determination. Dagalo also dismissed any suggestion of negotiations or agreements with the army, saying those who believe that such talks are underway are mistaken. Meanwhile, Burhan has pledged to continue fighting the RSF until the paramilitary forces surrender their weapons.
The atrocities committed against our people and the bitterness that these criminals have inflicted on people, their images, sounds, and renewed wounds give us no options in settling with these criminals and their supporters. I say to them in the voice of the displaced and exiled people, whose money has been plundered, the besieged people, the bereaved mothers, the orphan children, and the martyrs, that we will not forgive, we will not compromise, we will not negotiate, and we will not break our covenant with the martyrs.
After 2 years of war that have divided Sudan in two, the army holds control in the east and the north, while the RSF dominates most of Darfur in the west, along with parts of the south. Now, the conflict has triggered waves of ethnic violence, creating what the United Nations calls the world's worst humanitarian crisis, and plunging several regions into famine. On Sunday, Pope Francis, who is recovering from a life-threatening illness, issued a written message calling for urgent peace talks in Sudan. But with no peace deal in sight and both sides refusing to back down, Sudan's war rages on. As the death toll rises and millions face starvation, international efforts to broker a ceasefire have so far failed. For now, peace remains a distant hope, while the suffering only deepens. And our final story is from Kenya. Life is stressful, especially when the economy is in shambles. The headlines are grim, and the only thing piling up faster than your to-do list is your anger. But in Nairobi, people have found an unconventional solution to vent their rage: smashing glass bottles and hurling objects in specially designed rage rooms. It's therapeutic chaos at its finest. And it's quickly becoming the go-to option for stressed out Kenyans looking to let loose. Here are the details.
Do you feel like the world is closing in on you? Tired of bottling up your anger only to have it burst out in a dramatic and possibly regrettable moment? Well, Nairobi has a solution, and it's as cathartic as it is chaotic. Enter the Rage Room, a place where you can throw things, break things, and scream to your heart's content. These smash sanctuaries are becoming all the rage, offering Kenyans a therapeutic alternative to shouting into the void. And with the economy teetering, femicide issues making headlines, and the government keeping everyone on edge, who could blame them? Take Daniel Gatimu, for instance. Armed with a baseball bat and some serious grievances, Gatimu swings his way to serenity by smashing glass bottles into a sparkling mess.
Before I came here, I was super mad because of the economy, the femicide issue, how the government is running things is really not good. And school, yeah. And I'd say it's better to be here than being out there, being rude to people, shouting at people, throwing fits. Yeah, so come here, relieve your stress in a controlled room.
Another client, Kinya Gitonga, channels her inner warrior with every swing after donning protective gear because safety first, even in a rage room. She hurls bottles with the precision of someone taking down their inbox on a Monday morning.
It's been amazing, throwing the bottles and, screaming, letting out my inner pains, worries, sadness. It's been a wonderful experience, and I'm feeling much better. My heart is not heavy anymore.
Meet the brains behind this smash hit idea, Wambui Karati, a 23-year-old counseling psychologist who decided it was time to shake up mental health stigma in Kenya. Therapy, she explains, has long been misunderstood in the country.
There is a lot of discrimination, stigmatization around it, and it was introduced to us like it's for people who are not okay in the head, like mad people. So apart from therapy, what else can we offer?
Inspired by a rage room scene in a movie, Karati decided to create the Healing Room, a one-stop shop for smashing your stress and unpacking it later with a professional therapist. However, one shouldn't substitute it for therapy.
Therapy helps you to understand where the anxiety is coming from, how to deal with it, and with a professional therapist, they will help you to walk through. But the rage room is more of exposure therapy, to feel relieved, just to feel relieved, and then you can go back to your life. But you see, you haven't dealt with the anxiety itself.
The walls of the Healing Room tell their own stories, with clients leaving graffiti messages like, "Lives were definitely saved here," and "It's all going to work out, stay calm." Meanwhile, the floor is littered with the remnants of frustration, shards of glass that symbolize stress shattered into oblivion. Kenya's mental health landscape remains a challenge, with 23% of the population struggling and 75% unable to access services. But for those who step into the rage room, the experience is a lifeline. As Karati puts it, sometimes you just need to smash something to feel a little less heavy. So if life has you on edge and your stress levels are through the roof, perhaps it's time to trade your bottled up emotions for some bottled glass. While rage rooms might help you blow off steam, true healing comes from smashing the stigma around mental health and not just plates.
And that's it on the show for today. We will see you again tomorrow at the same time. Thank you for watching and goodbye.